Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I've just updated the Tapering tool to version 3.1, and I did some changes. I've also did a review of the multi prescribing guidelines yesterday. That sort of affected me in terms of like renaming certain things, and so for me, what I've done here is, first of all, gave myself a name, commercial name. It's a very silly name, but it's a name so that people can just find me rather than look for my full name, Guy Rothenberg. They can just put Guy the Taperman. I think it's easier to find if you Google it or you do something like that, or you just need to find me on on YouTube and or anything like that. That's just a bit better. So that's why I did it. And I've also changed the name from hyperbolic to exponential. I didn't want to be associated with Mark's method, which, while very close to this in theory, in reality, his tapering plans in the book are just very crude and not very helpful, in my opinion, due to the lack of using of the scale, which is so important. I talk about it in the review, and basically just saying microtaper 7, 14, 80, 28 days, I should say. Let's just change this. Cut and, gosh, guys, we're working together here. Days, cut and hold, dry liquid taper, fully adjustable, version 3.1. And this is basically also a video where I'm going to show you a scenario where, someone, I'll call him Adam, wants to do a taper, how he uses this in this scenario, just to add like as an extra information for people. Of course, the full guide is here, you can see, and there's also a dry tapering guide where I use this tool so you can see how I do it in practice. I think those are very important videos. Please watch them. This is just an update on this, but also as a bonus, I'm putting a full scenario for people that find it difficult to understand. Disclaimer, I'm not a doctor. I do, however, have a degree in computer science and mathematics. I have lived experience. I've done a lot of research. Okay, so let's start by just showing what's new in this version. You can see everything is basically the same mostly. However, what I've done is I've made it very clear that you start here. I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for people that don't. By the way, if you need my help, my contact details are in the description. I don't put them in the video because they might change and I don't want to bake it in. I'd rather you look at the description, find my contacts, my updated contact details there that I can edit, and contact me if you need help to personally adjust those things. So in here, start here, change your red values. You basically start with the values of initial amounts pre-taper per day. What did that mean? Is that you start with, and that's how it always was, you start with the amount of that you take per day. So let's say 2 milligrams of clonazepam. It has 4 pills. Each of them weighs 150 milligrams on the scale. And so you put 600 milligrams because daily you take 2 milligrams. That's for 0.5 pills, and they're 150 each, 600. If you do a liquid taper, which I don't recommend, I'm actually going to put a little remark here that after I did the review with Mark Horowitz's book and saw the study about milk tapering specifically, I actually was convinced even more that milk is actually a good way to go if you ever want to go with liquid tapering. However, I don't recommend it, at least not to start with. Perhaps when it gets very low. I will talk about it in my video about tapering methods, so please subscribe so that you'll see, because it's going to come very soon. I think it's a very important video that's missing from my channel. And let's say that you want to start on the 1st of January 2025, so I made it very clear, and then you basically start the changes here once you start the taper. Other than that, it stays pretty much the same. So I've sorry, no, actually no, I've also just want to show I'll do it. It's easier to see with the 14-day. This is the same for all of them, just a little bit different in terms of how fast you go from a certain point. So I'll just do it for 14 days cut and hold because that's the fastest. It's easier to It's easier to show you guys. You start at 10% per every 14 days. Okay, so 1st of January, then 15th of January, it's already here, and then you cut another 10%, and then you get to this, and so on and so forth. The thing is that when you get to the end, and that's again like talking, about the sort of, it's like a middle ground between the hyperbolic taper method that Mark Horowitz suggests and my exponential. One of the things that he complains about is that it's never ending. First of all, it's not never ending. You have a jump dose. So in the case of clonazepam, 0.025 is a jump dose that's the equivalent of 0.5 diazepam. I have the tables, the equivalence tables here, so you can see exactly what is the equivalent of each. So if you look at clonazepam, 0.5 is equal to diazepam 10. So it's 20 times more potent, and therefore in those tables you'll see that it's basically 0.2025, which is equal to 0.5 diazepam, which is the Ashton manual's jumping dose. So this is something that I keep as well. But because the tail is so long with exponentials, even with this jump dose, I am basically going faster and faster as I get to this jump dose from 90%. So when in each one of those tables now, when you get to 90%, I start slowly increasing the rate. Now you might want to increase it for 1 week just by, or 2 weeks in this case, 14 days, by just 11% rather than 10%. This is going to be very, like everything in this tapering tool, very dynamic, and you're in complete control. I always suggest start slowly increasing. If you need to, you can also reduce it. Remember, this is really adjustable to how you feel after each cut. So yeah, that's what I've done in all of them. So that's another thing that I've changed. And now let's take a scenario. And I think that would be the easiest way to understand how this works. So let's say your name is Adam, and you've been taking clonazepam for a year now at 2 milligrams, so 2 years. And you have a New Year resolution. You want to stop taking the benzos. You realize you have dependence on them now, and you realize that they're not helping you anymore, and you understand that this is something that can harm you potentially. So you want to start tapering. You get a scale. First of all, you can see in my guide, in my dry tapering guide, what to do. And you can also start taking Stabilium, which I recommend. Again, with all those things, you need to talk to your doctor before you start doing those things. But Stabilium could be a very great tool to help taper antidepressants and benzos. From my experience, you basically take it for a month. You maybe start taking medicinal CBD as well, or separately for a while. If you live in Australia, I recommend the Humacology brand. That's the one that after 4 brands that I've changed, that actually helped me very much to taper very fast. And basically you do it before you start the taper. So you start to adjust yourself, especially, by the way, if you already have tolerance. So if you feel that you're having side effects from taking the benzos that are paradoxical, and you start to have anxiety and things like that, you want to maybe fix that, not by updosing the benzo, but by adding those things that would potentially can help you balance yourself again. And so once you're in a good place, you can start the taper. Again, remember, you can change this date to any date you want. So if you don't want to, and once you start, you can also change this. But basically, let's say that he wants to start and he wants to do, rather than this, he wants to do microtaper, let's say 5 days. So remember, the 5 day thing is just an option. So he gets to this one. He says, "Okay, let's create a copy because it will be view only," and he calls it my taper plan. Okay, it will open a new window, and in a second we'll see. Yep, there we go. You'll see everything happening here, and this is now his personal taper plan. So he decides that he thinks that 5 days microtaper starting at 1.8%, it would be the initial step for him. Remember that you can change it as you go, like I said. So don't be afraid to start with one thing, move to the other, go back. You just need to manage it. I also suggest that you would do a little find a YouTube, like a half an hour initial course or like tutorial how to use Google Sheets. That could be very helpful when you deal with it. But you don't really need to know much. You just, in this case, you just need to do to change those values. So it's not really a big thing. But let's say that he starts here. So he does the first cut of 1.8%, and then he waits, and he sees that it peaks his symptoms. He feels a little bit of a symptom, but it's very mild. And then after a few days, he's feeling much better, like literally 2 days. And he thinks that, okay, this is working. This is every 5 days. It makes sense. But let's say that he doesn't. Let's say that he wants to do every 6 days or 7 days, because it actually took it a little bit longer, and he does want to give his body more time to heal between cuts. And so he decides every 6 days. And so he goes here, he changes this. Well, he doesn't actually change this, but what he can do is just select all of these, press Control, and then drag this. You have to press Control, otherwise it won't work. And it will change it over time to like every 6 days. Remember, this is dynamic. This is just so that you can see like how it affects the taper. You can drag it. Sorry, Control Z is a good thing to press sometimes, which is undo, and then you can continue dragging it. I usually do that when I was doing this just to see how it affects everything. So I'll just do that. Please don't be scared when you see those dates going years over years of the years. Don't be scared of it. That might not be your scenario at all. And in any case, the important thing is that you feel good, no matter how much the taper is taking, and functional. Okay. So let's say, okay, fine. He does it every 6 days. So he thinks, oh, well, maybe I'll taper a little bit more. So I'll do 2.2% reduction. Now, what does it mean to do this reduction? So actually, let's change it. He takes the clonazepam 1 milligram during the morning and 1 milligram during the evening. So we'll change this to 2 doses per day, and we'll also drag it. In this case, you don't have to press the Control. It will just change it. If it's just a number and you drag one number, you don't need Control. I would assume that it's in the Mac, it's not Control. It might be something else. So just you can check it, basically see which one of them. Oh gosh, I hate when this happens. One of the tips that I'll give you is that when you try to drag it like this, if you go over what you think is like the end of the table, that doesn't matter. You can always like do this, go here, Shift, click, press the delete key. It's gone. Remove this as well. So yeah, and you can also, by the way, if you don't have enough lines for some reason, like which can happen, like if you go slower, just I press this, I press Shift, I click while I press the Shift key, and then I drag this down again without the Control key. I apologize because it's 1.8 and then 000. We need to do it like this. We press here, we press the Shift key, we press this, we press Control, like before, and I do this, and then it does that. But as you can see, when I get here, it's actually again every it's every 5 days. Remember, that's the reason for this is what I've changed. Like I've changed here because I'm making you go faster. That change. See, when you did this, that changed the jump to. So remember, I put it in here, but you can press this, press Control B, remove that. You don't know where your jump dose would be in this scenario, and so you need to don't be upset about it, guys. Again, you're going to get to your jump dose. When you get to that jump dose, it could be in a month, it could be in a year. That's how you start. Okay, so he basically decided to go up it faster because he tolerated this jump very well, but he wants to do it every 7 days because he believes that after 7 days his brain adjusts, and so he might write here. So one of the first things he does after he finished this, I'll go here, click, and do this. And then you have a place here to write your comments. You also have the diary example. So you might decide to put here 1st January 2025, and then maybe put here 2nd Jan 2025. And in here, I will delete this for now, and this, and I'll put here 1900. That's what he did the first cut, maybe in the evening. I'll actually start in the morning. So let's do like 10 a.m. He puts I've made my first cut. Now, if you're not using the other ones, I might drag this to the first position. So just press it, click it, and drag. I would take this. Sorry, not this one, because this is what he's using. I would double click on this, and I will just say my current tapering plan. Okay, that's something else that you can do. Keep all of those here. You might want to use them later, but these one are the important things, right? So you say my current tempo plan and the pencil diary. Maybe do this if you want to. So you can see here, the 1st of January, he did the first cut, and then maybe there's nothing much to say, but you can say also, this is actually a good way to remember to take things. So once you took the tablet, you immediately change it here. I also recommend having, more than recommend, almost demand you having like a pill scheduler thing. So basically like a pill box where you put the pills by day, and it's called a pill organizer actually, and I have like an AM and PM section in it, and that way that you'll never forget to take those things. And also put on your phone an alarm to 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. So basically depends on what time you wake up in the morning and what time you go to sleep. You could also do like, let's say 9 and 9. Please make sure that it's equal. So don't try to get as close as you can to the time. Don't, if it's 1 hour over or 2 hours over, it's not ideal, but take the pill, of course. But always make sure that you take the pill on time. This is very, 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 very important. If you missed one time, don't panic. It happens to everybody and they do it, but just prepare before you do that. Have a pill organizer, cut the doses. I show in the dry taper how to do that and put them in. So, I'm using, actually, use this, not using AM and PM. I'm using full format. So 9 and 9. And you take it and you remind yourself, I took the pill. And then 2nd of January 2025, maybe again the same thing. So maybe you need to do this. And well, don't, because okay, let me explain. Well, you can actually, that would be better. So press Control, do this, press this, well, press, do this. So you have the first and the second, and then it would know how to continue. No, sorry. Okay, so in this case, this is annoying. Okay, so when you, in this case, you press this and press this, you basically select both. So use Shift to click here to select all of those. And then you don't press anything and you drag and it does the calculation for you. But you need to press both of them so it will create that space. So as you can see, even I, the big math person, sometimes have funny things happening with Sheets. Sheets is not exactly like Excel in the way that it creates things. So in this case, we just do this. And then if you want to add an entry, and don't write I made before, like I took the pill. Write it only after you took the pill, so you remember. And now, if you want to add an entry, you right click on this and so insert one row above. So between this time and this time, let's say 12, I started to feel the cut. Maybe I'm imagining things because, like your anxiety, because you started this taper, might increase naturally. So don't assume that it's the cut. Sometimes it's a placebo effect. Okay. And so right now the opposite of the placebo effect, but you know what I mean. It's psychological, but it could be that. And then maybe on the third day you start to feel it really. So you put the row above, and you just say, let's say here, I started to feel a bit more anxiety, a bit feeling a bit lightheaded, maybe, and then everything is fine after that. So you add an entry here to say insert row above. Actually, feeling a bit better today, and so on and so forth, and that's basically what you do. I'm just putting 12 here, but you can put like literally the time that you made this entry. This will come to be very very, very good for you looking back. In my taper, in my when I looked back on my my tapering plan, while I was doing those videos and everything, that was really helpful to me to remember what happened when you want. A lot of times you just don't remember. A normal person doesn't really remember what he did like 2 weeks ago. So just imagine yourself that it's very important because, for example, once you start taking certain things, for example, if you take CBD while you're doing this and you feel a bit better, you can basically say, like, if you started to feel a bit lightheaded, maybe right here, I took a small amount extra of CBD, 0.1 mil. So that's very little. Depends on concentration, but 1.5 mil of the pharmacology oil yellow. I want to mention by the way, guys, I'm not affiliated with them. They don't give me money to use that. I don't even think that they know that I'm promoting them in a way, because I didn't contact them yet to tell them that they saved my life. But I will, especially Joe, the nurse, who was really, really supportive of me, for free. So when people do something like this for you, you want to recommend them because they really were amazing. I don't say that this would be the brand for you or anything like that. probably people that live here, that cities don't even live in Australia, so they don't have access to it. I only say it because it helped me. So you can write anything you want here if you want to, or if you whatever you're using, it could be anything. But that's what I did. Okay. I always put here if I took something, how I felt. So I might write insert row here. Oh, sorry, insert row below. And I would say that at 16, because it takes a little bit for it to work, I think it helped me. Or I think it didn't. I think it didn't make a difference. So maybe next day you'll try a little bit more, or maybe you decide you don't want to use it at all. It's up to you, but that's how you basically use this thing. Okay. So let's go back to my current tapering plan. You can also write things here. That's why I like the daily version, the what I call the microtaper template, just because you can do it daily. So if I chose to use the 7-day cut to start with, and he did exactly the same thing, and he decided that after 10 days he felt better, then I would just change this to plus 10. Or I would literally fix this, and if he wants to keep it plus 10, again, drag, and it would change it all to plus 10. So basically the previous one, you can see if you press it, you'll see that it's the previous cell plus 10. 10 represents days in Google Sheets on the dates, basically here on the date format. So you just put plus 10 and drag it, and just make sure that if that's what you want to do for the rest of your taper, drag it all the way down. Okay. All right, so I'll just did a Control Z to undo, and let's go back to here. And then, so like I said, you can write here what you want, but I think that the benzodiazepine example is better. And then, but this is just a bit easier also when you want to look at everything. I would write a little summary here, maybe. So I would say felt worse, took CBD 0.1 mil yellow at 13,300. I felt better after 3 hours. So you can do that here. And then basically, once you decided, like I said here, to go to a week after and go a little bit faster because this was manageable for you. By the way, you might not feel anything. Like I said, when I started to take those things, I didn't feel anything. I was going very fast. But before that, it was like literally like every cut I could feel. So it changes. It will change over time, potentially. So, that's why it's dynamic. So the next time I want to go to 2.2%, and I have a similar experience, okay? And then I go 3%. And then maybe when I did that, I still felt okay, but it was just I could feel some symptoms. So maybe again, like right here, I took a little bit more, or it didn't help, and I think that this is like where I am. So maybe go a bit back. This is a big jump. It doesn't look like a big jump, but it is a jump. So you go down 2.5%. Okay. And then, and by the way, as you can see here, what happens, just to explain, this changes. Basically, you can see here that it's basically keeping score of how much you're taking each day in terms of milligrams of the benzo. And then you press, if you look here, it just basically takes the previous day, removes 2.2%. So basically what you see here is just the formula to double 1.96 by 97.8%. Basically, that's the meaning of dropping by 2.2%. And then it goes on, and you continue. Okay, so what's the difference? Why is this exponential and not linear? this is the percentage from the previous dose. So basically, you see that it's 2.2%, 0% changes. This keeps it basically the same during those days. And then you start to do a cut, or you do a cut, basically, it goes down to 1.92 from this column. So basically, sorry, from this cell. So you see here that, sorry, we'll choose this. Choose this actually. So you see here that it's looking back into the previous day, and that's what it's calculating. So basically 2.2% off from 1.964. This is basically so 97.8% of the previous dose. That's what you see here. If that was from the original value, that would have been linear. And that's what it, so what I'll show you exactly how it would have been calculated. Instead of using C, it would be not C9, but C3. So that's different. I'll do an undo and you'll see that the value is not exactly the same. So at the beginning, it will be very, very minor, but over time that changes everything. So if I go, if for example, I'll do a bigger cut just for the example, 10%, okay? The difference between, and also here, like 10%, okay? You see here that it's 1.8. That's a 10% reduction for 2. And in here is 1.62. If this was basically linear, that would be 1.6. It would be this double the initial amount, which is 3, and then it would be, sorry, we didn't change it, 1.6 instead of 1.62. That's why it gets slower and slower, because it's always from the previous amount, not the initial amount. And that previous amount is always smaller than the 2%. So in effect, you're reducing by less and less and less. And that's the guidelines. That's how it should be. Okay? That's how your brain works. Now, basically, let's go back. 2%. No, 2.2. You did a 3, you jumped a little bit too much. Let's say that it was a little bit too much. You go back one step and you change it to 2.5, like I said here. And then it's all good. And you keep going at this rate. You may be feeling that you want to go a bit faster, so you do 2.6. Now you're going very slowly up in the percentage points. And you find that the best one is 2.7, and then you continue, and then maybe at some point you're like, oh, it's so hard to look at all of this, I want to jump to a different table. I change this to my first taper plan. I would go to 7-day cut and hold. I'll move it here by current taper plan. I look at what date I want to do the next cut. So let's say you decide that your next cut would be just like here. Sorry, do this. I'll do this. I'll count 7 days. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Could, basically, I'll just do this just so that I'll see. And then it's Thursday, 13th of February, 2025, when I want to change that. So in here, I put 13th of February 2025. I make sure the initial active ingredient would be what is here. So I control copy. This is, actually, you need to press this. So if you don't start here, right? You press the one before, the day before you want to do the first cut, so it will cut from that. So 1.6785. I go here, put that here. And point doesn't want to do it a proper copy. 1.6785. Actually, one of the things to do is do like just Control C and then go here and just pass the value. Pass special values only. It does it. And don't forget to change this. And this would be here, today's weight total, basically. And I'll copy this. I'll go here. First, pass special values only. 504. So this is where we start. We don't care about this because we don't do a liquid taper. And so basically, you now have a new taper plan that starts here. And instead of doing every day, like having a basically a row for every day, you have one for like jumping here. So remember that we changed it. We changed it to every 7 days again. We click, we drag, and there we go. This is fine. And then in here, that would be 2.7%. And we can drag this as well. Now, very important, and this is for each one of them. Maybe I should have started with this, right? How much do I need to calculate 3 doses per day. Together they're 490. Do not go to the scale and find 490 and then try to, cut it 3 times somehow. You go to the smallest calculation you need to do. So it's 163 per dose. You find 163 milligrams on the scale. You basically use that, watch my video about dry tapering. You'll understand how to do it. You get it, you put it in the box, in the pill organizer for AM, for that, for basically that cut. So if it's every 7 days, that would actually, if you have a pill organizer with 7 days, you just I would write with a marker the date that or the day, actually better. So if it's always cutting on Thursdays, it will be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Some of them have the days they're already written. That's not a good thing in my opinion, because you might be changing the cutting date and you want it to be a bit more easy for you. So maybe just put, write with a marker, like one that you can actually remove later. I found that even with the permanent ones, I was able to remove it from my pill organizer. But yeah, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you always know exactly what you took. If you don't remember, I have this problem. Sometimes I don't remember if I took it in the morning or not. And but I go back to the pill organizer and I see it that I didn't take it, and then I take it. Okay. So, and that's it. And then you can change that. Maybe you feel that you could go up to 2.8. Okay. And maybe after the initial kind of thing, you go like 2.8, and then 2.9, because remember at 3%, and then you start to feel a bit worse, but maybe you can tolerate it. I would not, for this kind of thing, I would just go back one step if it's too much. It's so much easier to do that when you go like with little steps like this, rather than, crudely go up 1%, 2%, 3%, because you'll find the exact amount. Now, remember, that can change over time, but at least you know more or less where you are, okay? And for example, let's say that you have, the holidays are coming. I don't know, like maybe somewhere here is, well, I know where it is. Let's say that in here it's Easter, and your annoying auntie is coming, and she doesn't understand that you're tapering. She's really, really annoying, and also you have a deadline for something that you're trying to do. Maybe you are still working, and this is a hard week at work or something like that, and you're like, I don't want to unbalance myself for this. I don't want to take the chance. So maybe you go 0, but maybe that psychologically interferes with your self-esteem of like, I still want to go a little bit at least. So you change it to 0.5 or change it to 1%. But you can do that. You can change it as you go. Or maybe you had a really bad reaction when for this jump, and you need to hold a little bit because you don't go back to the to this, and you feel bad. Now, one thing you can also do, if you do it every 7 days, if you feel like really, really bad and you feel like, this might cause me a big issue, you can go back. I can go 0. Don't go, I would say, don't go all the way. First of all, even if you do 2.9, remember, mathematics doesn't work like that. So in this case, it's like 150 because the numbers are small. But you can see that it's not exactly. There's a difference between if you cut 2.9 and then you add 2.9, it's not the same calculation. It just looks like it because the numbers here are so small in milligrams. But if it's good enough for you, if you go good enough in milligrams and you go, it's 150, 146, 150 milligrams, that doesn't matter much, right? It's the same number. I would just go back 2.9%. So because one of the advantages of doing this using like smaller cuts over 7 days rather than, let's say, 10% over a month is that with benzo specifically, if you want to updose, after a month, you are basically taking a big chance. It might not actually help you. In some very rare cases, it actually can harm you. So I would really suggest that if you want to do an updose, for any reason, if it's like really bad, like you had literally couldn't sleep for 3 nights and you're losing your mind and you're having like what I had, like, nighttime terrors or like, literally like shaking or anything that really scares you too much, you go back a little bit. And if it's after 7 days, usually the brain would adjust, even if it's after a few days. So I would actually say, like, let's say that it happened after 3 days, you had those symptoms and you don't want to hold and see what happens. You're being very cautious. So you change the date here after 4 days, let's say, so that you go back on that date to 1.5 milligrams of clonazepam, which is 150, it's basically one pill. Now remember the pills. Another thing, another tip that I always say: the pills are not always the same. That's why we do the average of the pills. We are not working with the pill. If you look, you see like 1.5, and you're like, it's 3 pills, so it's 1 pill per dose. So I don't need to cut anything. Measure the pills. If the pill is like 152, cut it back to 150. If the pill is 1.48, don't use it. Use it for here. Cut it, shave it a little bit here, so it's 146 milligram on the scale. You want to, if 3 pills is 450 milligrams and 1 pill is 150 milligrams, and that's what you're using, and it's what, it's up. I'm still using three times a day. That's important. Sorry, guys. 2 times a day. Remember, we take it 2 times a day. Drag all the way, in fact. You can change that also on the fly when you do it, right? Don't forget. Never forget that you can change this as well. You can change the number of doses a day you take. For example, if you take clonazepam and you cut it, you want to stay on lorazepam, you probably be on 3 times a day. But if you take it, if you feel that you have interdose withdrawals and you still don't want to switch to clonazepam, because that's also, or diazepam, because that also has plus and minuses, which I would describe, I guess, in another video. But basically, if you're staying on the lorazepam because that's what you are used to and that's what you want to stay on, you might change this to 4 and drag it, and then maybe because you started with 3, it didn't work, you change it to 4. That calculation changes again each dose weight, and this is just for information. This is how much it is per day. Again, for if you want to switch or if you just want to have this information available to you. I don't hide this column, but basically that's the important one. That's why it's in bold. And then maybe now you're much more hesitant, so you go back to 2%. next, 7 days after. But then you're like, I don't have any side effects, and you start climbing again, and so on. And maybe when you get here, you get to 2.8%. You're like, you know what? This I started taking all sorts of supplements. I have a very relaxed lifestyle. I started to do meditations. I'm really, really in a good place. Maybe I'll try to do it again. And nothing happens. You literally don't have symptoms. So then you like go to 3%, 3.5, 3.1%. And then you feel good, and you go to 3.2, and then you start to feel a little bit of a problem. So you say, okay, let's go back to 3.1. You feel good, it's working okay. You go down, and you decide to stay on 3.1, because and all through here, sometimes you'll have a week that you'll feel a little bit worse. Sometimes you'll have a week that you feel nothing, and in any case, you will be functional, and you think that this is a good place for me to stay. So you just drag it. And like I said, remember what I said before, you can go back a little bit, you can zero it. You might have a bad week, you put 0. You might have, and then you go again. And remember, if you give a week off for your brain, that might not be a bad idea. If you start to feel that if you start to feel that every week becomes a bit worse, then maybe you're going too fast and you need to change this to every 9 days. Okay? And that might mean that you can continue taking it reducing 3.1%. Where did I put it? Yeah, drag it down. Okay? And then you stay at 3.1, and now you're stable. And now you found your balance. You're taking with the things that I'm taking and the way that I'm going. This is working for me. I'm going to continue on this for the rest of the time. Okay? It's being conservative. I'm not going to, yes, I'm here in 2026, took a year and a half, but look where I am. I already reduced 87.5% of the initial amount. So basically, you can see that the lower you go, the longer it will take if you stay on the same amount. So let's say that we started at 3.1%. Okay? I just want to show you what the exponential function means. Basically, we start, let's say that we, from 1.5, that's about 1.5. That's at basically almost the 1st of March, like 27th of February is 2 days before the 1st of March. This is like, it will be actually the 1st of March, sort of like the middle here, right? So we started 1.5 here, and to get to 1, which is maybe here somewhere, it takes us 3 months, almost 3 months, okay? And then to get from 1 to 0.5 at the same rate would take us 6 months now. Why is it taking almost 6 months? Why does it take almost 6 months and not 3 months from before? Because of the function. It goes slower and slower and slower in a pretty pattern, basically doubling the time it takes to remove the same amount in every section. And that's why people are so scared about this tail. So let's say that we only kept it at 2. I'll start again like at 2%. Okay, I'll just go back to what it was. Okay, what I've done is that actually I'll go to another example because this was already tainted by what I've done. Let's go to 14% cut and hold. Well, not 14% cut and hold. 14% cut and hold 10%. That's the fastest I have here. That's, by the way, not the fastest you can go. It's just that that's the fastest that the guidelines go. It doesn't matter. I went faster at the end, much faster. But basically, that's what I mean, the end. So what I've done is when you get to 90%, of their initial dose. That's this column here. 90% of the initial dose. That column is, by the way, you don't change it, you don't do anything with it. It just gives you satisfaction to look at to see how much you already taper. Like every one of those steps is an achievement. And so this is very important. But basically, once you got to 90%, I start to go faster here. Now remember, this would be adjustable. You might not do 10%, you'll change it just like I just showed. Every day it will change a little bit. But once you get to 90%, you might get a little bit, a little bit faster. And then when I get to 90, this in 94%, so you might go 14% faster. And then it's basically getting at the equivalent of 0.5. I switch from this to basically, double the dose, the jump dose. I actually go even faster. But you can see I'm not going twice again faster. I'm still going slow steps up. You don't want to go too fast. I know that you will see that like the light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing right here, like, the jump dose, and you'll be like, no, let's do it fast. I can do it fast. Don't go like if you increase it by 2%. Don't double it. Hyperbolically, it will be double, like hyperbolic. I keep using this word. Exponentially, you'll be doubling every time, but you don't you don't do that. Just go 2% more. 1% more. You can start with 11% more, and then 12% more, then 13. You might start, like I said, with your experience, you might go faster here. 16%, okay, that's too much. We're staying there, and so on and so forth until you get to the jump dose. So I just put here a jump. You don't have to do that. Once you get to the end, this is more for you to like give yourself like a horizon to look into, like of basically where you jump from the dose and you start the basically to live without the benzo, but basically you get to 0.025. So however you get there is okay. If you stop here, you'll find that you'll see here that it's a joke. It's a joke. You start to reduce 1 milligram, and even the scale might not be accurate enough, and it might be like, oh, one day it's 5, one day it's 3. Don't miss this step. I know that with clonazepam, for example, it's like a joke. It's like 3 milligrams is a tiny, tiny dose, and it won't be completely accurate. Just used by pretty accurate, very accurate actually, scale. I'll put a link also in the description for the one that I use. And and I got to those levels, and it didn't matter if it's a little bit more, a little bit less, because it's so small, but I still gave myself those weeks and months of being in a very small dose before I jumped. So at 3 milligram, if it's 150 milligram of pill weight per 0.5 milligrams of clonazepam, that would give you 0.0345. You want to really get to 0.024. It doesn't matter if it's not completely accurate. You'll find it really funny to take the tiny crumb at the end and just put it in your mouth, but it makes a difference. You'll be surprised that it's actually that tiny stupid crumb makes a difference. And so once you own it for a few, letting your brain adjust to this amount, even it's going a little bit up and down now, it's so insignificant. And then you basically, once you get to the jump dose, you'll jump, and hopefully you'll have very minimal, if at all, symptoms. Your acute withdrawal phase potentially would be very easy if you do that. If you jump here at 0.1, what might happen, it's possibly would happen, so some people, is that you'll actually have a very difficult acute withdrawal period where you'll feel for months, weeks or months, very bad. That can happen to some people, and you won't actually have anything to support you because you don't take the benzo anymore. Maybe only the CBD. Like I said, there are things that can support you. I totally think that that you can take other things to help you. Just need to be careful about what you take. You watch my video about the supplements. It's not all of them are born the same way. Not all of them work the same way, and you need to be careful. But basically, you get there and you jump too fast just because you just want to finish with this and be over this, and but in reality, the right thing to do was to ignore your your psychological uh, call to stop, to just stop, and then just go slower and slower and slower, and then when you get to the end, it would be easier for you to jump off. Okay. So this was a scenario. I hope that you understand now better how to use this. Um, like I said, if you still don't understand, I mean, I would imagine that you should start with the bigger videos, and if you don't understand them, then now you saw a practical example of how to use it. And if you have any questions, again, my contact details are at the description. Now, the moment after I finished the previous video for the 3.1 version of the tapering tool, I already have a little update. I've inserted basically a chart to each one of those tables. So you can see basically how fast or how slow you're going with your taper. What's the curve? This is the jump dose. And it starts from, well, one of the things I need to actually mention that if you look at the 7-day or the 14-day or the 28-day, actually, you see that it doesn't start from 2.0, even though it's 2.0, because it starts from the first step of the taper. So the first step of the taper is 1.9, in this case, 5% off. And so it starts here. It would be more, you will see it here better here, like it would be 1.8, which is over here in the chart. And that's basically it. So you basically, and this is dynamic. So this is going to change as you do changes. So for example, if I wanted to go faster than every 14 days, maybe even 7 days, and I've changed it here to every 7 day or every 8 days, let's say 7 days. Okay, you'll see that those cuts, that's very fast, by the way. I wouldn't start there at all. I'm just showing it for here. I'll do that. You see that now it finishes here. If you change the rate during this time, you'll see it also changes. Again, I'm doing big numbers that don't make any sense. Don't cut it by 20% in one go, please. I'm just showing that changes. You'll be able to see them on the chart. How it's changing here. And yeah, I mean, it's just a little thing that would give you an indication. One of the things that happens because of it is that now I don't have extra lines here. So just remember, I mean, this would change. So if you go slower, just go here, Control B to make it unbold. This is just, you can, this is just to show where the jump dose is. Move the jump from here. You basically either do this, or actually no, you do this. Press here, Shift, press here to make this all selected, and drag it, and then you have more lines. In this case, it's not really important, but if you were going slower at some point, let maybe start at 5% and then 10% or 7, or then this would make sense. And so when I do this, now the jump dose would be 0.025 for clonazepam, for example. So it would be here. I do Control B to make myself know that this is the jump. I put like 3 exclamation marks, and yeah, and this is the new jump dose. Yeah, this is very simple to do. I'll just undo everything so it won't affect us. And yeah, and that's it, guys. So thank you so much, guys. I hope this helps. Have a very good day, and remember, you are not alone.